I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Karlee.
And this is the Just Kickin It Podcast, where we do what, baby?
Where we just kick it.
I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to episode 1 of season 1 of our podcast. Me and Jimmy are very excited about our new journey together. We've been wanting to start this for a very long time, but one, we were just too scared, weren't invested. But now we're feeling ready. We're ready to go. We're ready to kick this thing off.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of new things have happened in our life. Obviously, we just got married a month ago. It feels like we've been married for like 5 years.
We literally been married for almost a month.
I know.
A month and some change.
Well, it's been a little bit over a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the day we got married, I think?
Of course.
Okay. Just making sure. Just making sure. Best day of your life. Just making sure.
Always remember to make it your password. That's how you'll never forget, guys.
Okay.
That's always key.
Well, of course, there is a lot of things that we're going to get into this podcast, but the main thing we just kind of want to talk to you guys about first is just our story, our marriage, you know, how we're navigating through that, because a lot comes with marriage.
Comes with it.
And yeah, I mean, we all kind of, if you haven't known, Jimmy has actually been married before. So this is his second time around and it's my first. So we're kind of navigating this a lot differently. And I'm very interested to see and to hear more about your experience for the second time around and things that you think you're going to do differently. But do you want to tell them just a little bit about how we started out and how we got to the point of marriage?
Okay. So we're not going deep into detail, but to start out, so we initially met in North Carolina. By the way, I am from North Carolina. She was visiting a college friend, and of course I stayed that way, and we had met at this bar. You remember what it was named?
I just know that it's not open anymore.
I just know it was a hole in the wall. It was
Barrel. I don't know, but Barrel at the Left.
Barrel at the Left. Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, it was like a hookah R&B spot. It was live.
It was live.
It was fun. The drinks were cheap. It was cool.
I'll say this much. When we first met and we were in there, and it just kind of it just created a good vibe between us two. But continuing on with the story, during my time talking to her and just kind of relaxing, learned a lot that she's like a big family person, and that's what I fell in love with. And then also, not to mention, she loves to smile. This woman has 35 teeth.
Honey, if you just talk about all the things that you love about me, we're gonna be here all day.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Okay, so we met at Barrel at the Lift in Charlotte, and then everybody don't kill me. A week later, I was texting my dad asking if he could come home to meet my family a week later. And at the time, he had a 3-year-old daughter, which we'll get onto that another time.
Good old Ziggs.
I am now a stepmom. So a lot has come in with this marriage, and we're just excited to be able to talk about it with you guys. But yes, a month later, we're dating, we're moving in together. I moved to Charlotte, get a job I hate, you get a job you hate.
Yeah.
Then we're finally within our careers, you go back to school. Again, we'll go more deep into this.
Yeah.
And now we're married. We were engaged for a year, married for a month. How does it feel?
I'll say this much. I'm in a great space. Yeah. It's something special. I'll say it feels different to have a wife compared to a girlfriend or fiance.
Yeah. And
sometimes since we've been married, it still feels surreal. Yeah. It really feels surreal because it's just like sometimes I catch myself, I'm just like, okay, my wife, she needs this. Yeah. And I tell people that, and I guess I'm just trying to grasp it because it seemed like that whole week of our wedding and the bachelor party and bachelorette and all that went so quick. It just seemed like a dream, a blur, But it's been great. How about it for you?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I feel like I have not even processed. I keep telling you this. Like, I feel like I have not even processed that I'm married. Like, I get like thrown back. Like, I'm married. Like, this is so weird. Like, this is stuff you dream about when you're a kid. And
you know what really got me? Whenever we were at the wedding and you and my brother were sitting there like, yo, like we got the same last name. Like,
oh, J-Ron. He's also going to be a guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
We have some more stories, but so I guess like, I don't know, like what is like, again, we've mentioned that you've been married before. What was something that you took from that and was like, I can either, you know, bring that to my marriage or I'm not doing that in my marriage, but what are some things that, because, you know, like everyone really does talk negatively about like, oh, like you've been divorced or I don't want to be with somebody with divorce with a kid, but that also gives you one hand up to even be more successful in your next marriage. So like, what are some of the things that you can tell them about loving and getting married again after, you know, divorce?
Yeah. So, when I first got married, I'll say 20, going on 21. And I was just like maybe 2 years into the military. By the way, if you don't know, served 4 years in the Navy. But of course, had like a little simple court wedding and all that other stuff. And it was just like something that was rushed. It felt so rushed. And I didn't include any of my family members. We didn't like really do anything big. And I'll be honest with you, it made my family feel left out. And it also created animosity within that situation where I was just like, okay, we're starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
And then, of course, within that relationship at the time, the marriage, it was just a whole lot of, I guess, not respecting each other's, one, boundaries, but two, just respecting one another.
Yeah.
And it was to the point where it was toxic. Yeah. And, I mean, fast forwarding, I learned a lot, like, hey, 1, to respect, 2, to listen, 3, to stand up whenever I feel like something's not right, you know? I feel like a lot of times in marriage, people don't stand up and just really speak their mind in their relationship because they don't want to step on the other person's toes. But sometimes you have to be heard. Yeah. Or if they don't know, then how can they fix it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, we all have lists, and my list was to not marry someone with a child or marry someone who's been married previously.
We're gonna get into the list.
Yeah, the list be crazy, but I'm so happy that I like threw those out because now I had the chance to be with a man who's already been through it and won't allow another marriage to fail, which, you know, is very easy nowadays. Like you hear it all over the news. 50% of marriages are failing, and that's just like never an option. We don't say that word in our house, in our home. And so I think it's just so important to like, I think that's just what I needed too. Like I know you said you got married at 20. God knows what I was doing at 20. I was in college doing God knows what. I was in also a toxic relationship at the age of 20. So even thinking about getting married is actually insane. And, you know, we all say, I could have sworn, like I said, I wanted to be married with kids at 23. And I'm like, thank God I didn't, because you and our little 5-year-old is enough. And I don't even have my own kids yet, but, you know, I'm excited for that journey. And I feel like even though basically everything just happens for a reason, like everything that, you know, you've been through has been great for our marriage. And I think, you know, sometimes it's hard not to bring that baggage into our marriage, but I think you've done a really good job of just creating a new space for you.
And I'll say this much, that is like the hardest thing too. Like with any, like, regardless of whether it's a divorce or a bad breakup, it's just hard to go into another relationship not carrying that baggage that you had beforehand. Like, I'll admit that, of course, I had baggage on like trust issues and all this other stuff that I was kind of floating in there. But then I realized I was like, okay, this is not the same person. and that I need to understand that this person deserves, you know, a fresh me, like a fresh start with me. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if that was the same for you, where you were bringing a little bit within the relationship, but I know it just, that was probably my con of having a divorce. But ultimately, I'll say it's so many pros to like dealing with someone. And you know, I always told you this. It's just like, it's always dealing with somebody that'll teach me how to love you. Yeah. So I had to go through that just to get to what God had waiting for me.
Yeah. So. And, you know, I feel like everyone needs that. I mean, I don't know. I guess, like I said, I think it's just that it helped our marriage so much. You being in that first marriage, as much as, you know, I hate it. Like, I wanted to be the first. Like, I want to be your first wife. I want to have your first babies. But, like, there's so much more better that comes out of your past that, you know, helps our marriage and helps things just, you know, be nipped in the butt quicker, and we don't argue about things as long, because it's just like, okay, this is what we need to do. And, you know, sometimes it's hard, but we figure it out.
We always figure it out. Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say about our relationship is we communicate a lot. Yeah. I feel like if you can't talk to your partner, then, I mean, how do they know what's going on with you?
Yeah, so. And I knew, that's what I was forgetting what I was saying. I wanted to go back to the healing before you get into another relationship, because that is something I solely really tried to focus on before I got into another relationship. I was single in my mind. I was single in my mind for like 3 years. I was like, you know, I read that Relationship Goals by Michael Todd. That really inspired me. You know, I was journaling. I was just focusing on me. I enjoyed being single. I was literally in the flow. Like, I'm not going to be married. I'm good without a man. I'm doing this thing on my own. But that's how the world is, like, changing now. Like, women don't think they need men. And again, that's a whole nother podcast topic we're going to get onto. But I was just in that space, and this is how I knew it was real, because God threw you in my lap, and I had to rip up my list. Again, if you listen to Mike Todd, ripping up your list, I had to rip up my list. The height, the no kids, the not married, the this, the that. When you throw all those things away, God will show you things so much differently and give you everything you need in that moment. And so just being ready for that moment was something special, and I got to embrace. So if you're out there and you're in that kind of same position, just really take care of yourself, love yourself, give yourself grace through all the stuff that you're going through. And I promise that, you know, whatever's for you will be for you, and you just have to be patient for it, because I'm glad I was patient for it.
Yeah, I'll say on my end, you were going through a whole therapeutic session. I think I was just trying to figure myself out. And the craziest thing is my period in time when I was just figuring myself out was like 2020. Yeah. All 2020, I was figuring myself out. And what do you know? Come the beginning of 2021, I finally figured it out with you. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie to you. That was January. That's crazy.
I know. And I think COVID was really good for everyone. Like, we even talked about, like, you were in your best shape of your life. Oh, yeah. I was in the best shape of my life, focusing literally on myself. And now we're together. Oh, careful with your mic, babe. And now we're together, and we're just trying to figure it out, because we're kind of in this stage, like, he loves me. He's married to me. Like, so, let me eat these cheese balls. Like, let me do whatever. Let's take 3 weeks off from the gym. But no. So back to just like our marriage, and, you know, some of the things that we've learned. Like, what is something that you've learned about yourself? Is there a certain way like to be communicated with? Like, what is something really big in the last month you realized, you know, about yourself and our relationship?
Something I'll say I learned that's really big about myself is I like to be hurt. Mm-hmm. I don't like when, and you know I love you, but I don't like it when I'm not heard. You know, if I feel like somebody's not listening or giving me the eye contact that I want. I even do that with Zio. I was just like, yo, look at me. talk to me. Like
Zio is his daughter, by the way, everyone.
Yeah. You'll hear me reference her in like 15 different names. But it's just like the eye contact and listening to me, like you showing me that you're actively listening. I appreciate that so much. Yeah. And also another thing I learned about myself is that I feel like focusing on giving myself grace and actually understanding what it is that I want out of life. Yeah. Which, I mean, I do know what I want out of life. But I feel like I really have to be patient for those things. Yeah. And I have to develop some type of motivation for them. But what was the other one? I started getting deep into it.
Yeah, you're always getting deep. I mean, you basically answered it.
Yeah.
But...
What about you?
Ooh, one thing I learned... Basically kind of the same thing is like the listening piece. If you know me, I want to respond. Like, I'm ready with a response before you finish your sentence. Like, I'm ready to go. And that's something that I've been working on my entire life. Like, I've been that way since I was little. So I think that's one thing that you've taught me and something that I just had to fix because you're my husband and that's what you need from me is actually listening. Even if it's long-winded, because my man, he is long-winded, listening and taking that in and respecting it and making sure he knows that his feelings are valid. And I don't know, I think that's like one of the biggest things. And dang, we're really married. Like, this is my husband. Like, I have to cater to you, you know, I have to cater to your needs and things that you need. And you know, that's something I struggle with. Like I said, like I was in a period of time before I met Jimmy where I was just focusing on me. Like it was me. Like I didn't have to tell nobody where I was going. Like my money was my money. Like I was doing whatever I wanted. And then this man and this little girl, like a whole child is now in my life. And now I have two responsibilities, you know, that I didn't have to, you know, take care of, but I knew it was something that I wanted to do, and I loved him, so, you know, I treat her like she's mine. She is mine. She's my stepdaughter. I will treat her like all the rest of my future kids, but I think that was, like, my biggest struggle, even in the beginning of a relationship, is just, like, having to actually put you and her first. Like, it really was a big struggle for me because I was just in a space where I was like, I'm independent, like literally, like INDE, like that was me.
Wow, you was about to break it. You was about to say the whole time.
No, that definitely was me, and I don't know. And this is an ongoing process. Like we're gonna be learning about each other and what we need for like the next 80 years. And
I feel like when you stop learning about your partner and when you feel like there's enough that you know about your partner, I feel like you're failing in a relationship. I feel like you have to continually learn things about your partner.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people change, people grow. Like one day you were into, you know, journaling and poetry or, you know, whatever. And then of course the next day you could be into, you know, vlogging and political stuff. Like it just people change.
Yeah, and I think that can be really hard, but that's just facts. Like when you get married, you're married to that person, no matter what their flaws are, no matter what their decisions they make, whether they cheat, whether they do anything. It's like you really are locked in for life, and I guess that depends on each person's view of marriage. But like for us, as far as us in our home, like we're here. Like we have to constantly work on our marriage. We have to constantly make it a priority for us to be successful in our marriage. Like it is our choice. Like we have made a choice to get married. We vowed. We make a choice every day to love each other. And I think like it's hard. It is not easy by any means. And marriage is not for everybody.
Oh no, because I know there's so many people that's just like, you know, I don't know if I could just be committed to this one person and, you know, here with this other person. Marriage is all about compromising. If you ain't willing to compromise or commit, then, I mean, maybe it's not for you, you know?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's interesting that.
What was your biggest thing you were afraid of? And I want you to be honest, what you were afraid of after we got married?
Something I was afraid of? Nothing. I'm not really afraid of anything.
Okay, something that you were, how can I say this, anxious about.
I mean, I'm like fully responsible for you and Zio. Like, I think it's not just you, you know? Like, I think Zio is just makes everything like 100 more times real. Like, her just being here and like being like my child, it makes everything just 100% more real. And I wasn't afraid because we have been together for 2 years before we got married and Zio was everywhere. But that was like, okay, like now she's my responsibility. Like, teachers can call me and tell me she's acting up at school. Like I have to discipline her. Like, I have to, not be her friend. Like, I have to actually like be a mom. And I am forever grateful for that because I mean, I think I'm now ready for kids because I've had the opportunity. Like, it's very rare to get that opportunity before you have kids. And I mean, I am so blessed because I know what I'm getting myself into.
How old was she when we first got, like, what, 3?
She was 3.
3.
And she's 5 now.
Yeah. So we met when she was 3 and Zio was still in Pampers. Yes. And I'll say this without a shadow of a doubt, my mother-in-law and my wife helped this girl get potty trained. I was working on it actively. My mom was working on it actively, but I don't know. They showed me a different technique.
Let me give a little shout out to my husband too because he was raising a little girl by himself since she was 6 months old. Right? 6 months?
I'll say a year. It was just after her first birthday.
Okay, from her first birthday to her 3rd birthday.
Yeah.
You were raising her by yourself. And that is freaking crazy to even think about. Like, me even just raising Zio by myself, I'd be like, oh my God. Holy moly. Like, no, like, absolutely not. I can't imagine. But, like, kudos to you because, like, that's not normal. And, I'm glad I could come along and make y'all's days brighter.
Yeah, now she took all my shine. Like, Zio, she wants the pizza parties requiring me, want to do makeup, want to have girls' night. She's like, no, Daddy, you can't show up. I'm just like, really?
Yeah. But actually, that's actually a good question because me and Zio do have a really good relationship. And, like, I know that's good, but, like, does it ever bother you that we're so close?
I mean, sometimes it does whenever I'm outside of the circle. But, I mean, ultimately, I'll be honest with you, it warms my heart when my partner, who is not her, like, biological mom, just, they mesh so well. And it's just like, you couldn't tell y'all apart, like when we first got together because Zio just loved you so much because you used to look out for her so much you still do look out for her. I don't know why I said used to. But you look out for her so much, and I know she loves that. Which brings me to my my questions. Like, I know that of course we introduced Zio to you after what, a month, or was it after a couple of weeks?
Well, she came home.
She came with us.
I think it was like 2 weeks after we were together for 2 weeks.
So did you feel like, and you can be honest with me, did you feel like that was too soon, or what would you say would be?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It was too soon for me. Like, no, it was too soon.
So let me say what I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna give it to you. But I felt like in a relation, like when you're getting ready to run into a relationship, I feel like your child should meet your partner, because if it doesn't work out in the beginning, and I heard this from Steve Harvey too, but if it doesn't work out in the beginning, like if the child doesn't mesh, then like your relationship is like not gonna work.
But the beginning is not 2 weeks, love.
I mean, that is in the beginning.
I mean, honey.
We moved in after a month.
Babe, I get what you're saying. However, it was immediately way too soon. Like, I really didn't get to date you. Like, that was something that we had an issue with in the beginning of our relationship was we really, like, I was so frustrated that we weren't on dates and we weren't dating. Like, we were literally playing house, married, husband and wife before we got married, and that bothered me so much. Like, it really did. And not having dates, like, I remember I used to complain to you that we weren't going on dates, and it was a very much of a struggle. But then, like, again, yeah, it was tough. It was really tough.
I'll say thankful to family. My sister and my mother, like, you know, us being in North Carolina, they would watch Ziggy, and we would be able to have those little moments and times by ourselves. I'll never forget the one time we went out to Margaritas.
Yeah, that was really good.
If you're ever in Charlotte, go to Margaritas. It's the best.
No, but that was one of, like, the things I really struggled with in the beginning of a relationship, and I don't know how I got through that, honestly. And I do know you made it a priority, you know, and that's something that really was different for me was this man has a whole child. I'm telling him what I need and he's making it happen. And I'm like, okay, like, this is very different for me. Like, me just telling a man that I need this and he's providing it for me and he's finding a way. And that was huge. Like, no matter what we go through, you've done that for me and for us. And I think that's why we've come such a long way, because we're just constantly doing what we need to do for each other. And I love you just so much. Girl. This podcast is making us really just spill out our feels and loves some more. Even though we're already very emotional people, but I feel like now it's just, like, talking about it out loud and to, like, other people is just like, wow, like, that's my man. That's my freaking husband. This is all the things he does for me. This is how happy he makes me.
Stop it.
And sometimes, I'm just saying, like, sometimes we have to, like, sit down and remember, like, actually sit down and talk about it and say it out loud and remember, like, okay, like, this is why I married him. Like, I would do it all over again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I you know, I always ask you every day. I'm like, babe, will you marry me again? I remember before we even went through the wedding, you was like, babe, can I marry you the first time first?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I was going to say, going on, like, do you think cohabitating, because you know you spoke about us having this whole house, you know, with a kid, and it's like we're playing husband, wife, and kid, and the whole family situation. Do you feel like that was necessary for us to do before we got married? Some people say shacking up is not what it is, but I'm just like, I feel like you gotta be able to cohabitate with someone beforehand.
I don't know. I go back and forth on this one because I think that to a certain extent, yes, it was, like, too soon, because, like, I literally went from being single, and then the next month I'm living with my boyfriend and his daughter, and I'm taking care of her, like, too, right? So, like, I'm not just like, oh, Jimmy, like, let me just pretend that she's not here. Like, I'm getting up, doing her hair in the morning, getting her ready for school, making her breakfast, like, and it's just my nature. Like, I literally, like, you never asked me to do any of this. I just did it because that's who I am. That's my nature, and that's what my mom.
You have a natural.
Yeah, and that's what my mom did for me. So it's just natural. I'm like, okay, like, the kid wakes up, brush her teeth. I go and do her hair, put a cute outfit on her, get her breakfast, get her. It's just like a routine that, like, my mom, like, make her lunch. Like, I remember I used to make her lunch every single night before. Make sure she had a lunchbox, make sure she had a book bag. It's just, like, my nature. And I saw my mom do that, and, like, that's just how I've been since the day I met her. And it still carries on to this day. But part of me, like, the younger, not selfish, but just, like, me just wanting you, like, sometimes without all of that, was like, this is way too soon. Like, I just want to be able to come home and be with my boyfriend and stay out till whenever I wanted, and maybe not even go home, but, like, that was not an option. Like, it wasn't an option. But then again, I made that choice, right? So I made that choice. I knew you had a kid. I knew, you know, all the stuff from your past, and I made that choice. So now for other people, I honestly just think it depends on the situation and how you actually feel about it. Like, If you have a gut feeling that you shouldn't move in, don't move in. If you're not ready, don't move in. If you're not ready to financially... that's a whole nother... We'll talk about finances and marriage another day. But
and I know we will, but like I think whenever people move in with people, they automatically assume that like, I don't know if this is wrong for me to say, but a lot of times maybe, they may assume that the guys may take care of a majority of the things.
Not this way, baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But nowadays that's changing. Like,
it's
us women are up there. Like, we're making just as much. We're working just as hard. We are running our own businesses. We're doing our thing. So, like, I don't know. Like, times have changed, and I don't think men like that either. That's a whole nother... Like, we have so many things we need to talk about on this podcast.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're like, we'll touch a little bit on some of it, but I'm just like cohabitating, you gotta understand that there's so many things that, like, I feel like it's so necessary because there's so many things that you need to understand about your partner. Like, okay, you'll see them here and there, like, we bop out, we go on a date, hey, love you, bye, split your ways, or might do like a one overnight situation. But when you move in with that person, you see how they operate. Are they consistent with their day in and out situation? Also, not to mention, like, how are they all the way around? Like, are they always this happy? Are they always this optimistic? What are they like when they're down? Like, or even how, like, their cleanliness.
Yeah.
And how they communicate with you within a shared space.
No, and I get why you would want to know those things, but I don't know. I go back and forth. Like, I think it really just honestly depends on the situation. Like, if you know you're going to marry that person, then by all means, go move in with them. But if you're still testing the waters, I don't know.
And see, that's another great thing. So when we initially got together, when we started talking, so this is crazy. We actually ended up talking at the bar. And when I say we had so many conversations, So I told her off rip. What did I say? Like, we're dating to what?
Dating to marry.
Yeah.
Right?
Because, yeah.
Intentionally dating to marry.
Yeah. Because I feel like unintentionally dating.
Well, you didn't tell me. You asked me. We asked what our intentions were because we didn't want to waste our time. Like.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to be completely real with you. Like, I had a kid, so I don't have time to just, go out here messing around day in and day out. It's just like, I'm intentionally, dating for somebody that I actually care about and want to be with.
Yeah.
And it worked out because I feel like you were everything that I needed in a woman. And then you said, hey, I'm intentionally dating to as well to marry.
And I think that's why we're doing so well and we started off so well into our relationship is because, like, literally on our first date, you guys, I mean, we're intent, like, are you trying to intentionally date? What are your 3 non-negotiables? Like, mine was, like, faith, communication, and faithfulness. Like, those are my 3 non-negotiables. Like, if you can't give me those 3 things, like, I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
And and it's so crazy saying it now. It's like all these conversations happened the first day we met each other.
Yeah.
The first day we met each other, and I was like, oh God, I'm going down this path again with a man that says all these things, and it's just like, but I never asked a man those questions or have had those types of conversations the first day that I met them.
But those are like frightening words to like people. It's just like those words scare people that are like, yo, hey, you getting a little too far, you getting a little too deep. And I mean, I don't know what it was about your aura and your vibe, but I've been to that point where I was just like, I don't know if I'm there with somebody that I was just casually just talking to. And I was just like, okay, let's dial it back a little bit. But then next thing you know, I ran into you and we were bringing it up and we were discussing it. And next thing you know, I'm like full on, like, I'm intentionally dating to get married. Like, yeah. What is your intentions?
And I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I need to ask because I cannot waste any more of my time. Like, I'm in such a great spot. I'm really like investing in myself. I'm happy, and I am not wasting my time with another man. Yeah. I just am not. I am not like. And we'll get into, again, our past individually and talk to you guys about, like, all the things that we've been through and what we struggled with and the craziness, the heartbreak, because me and Jimmy have some crazy stories just about our life in general and crazy. But, yeah, I was just at that point and I was like, I need to know these answers now, baby. And if you can't give them to me, then adios. And my baby gave them to me. He gave me my answers and until this day, almost 3 years later, you have stuck by those words. So that just shows. I know.
Out of my word, I'm there for you. Yeah, but I mean, I felt like, I can't say this. I felt like intentionally dating to get married. I was initially scared because, like you said beforehand, I was married once before. Yeah. So I was scared too as well. And it was just like, I told myself, I was just like, I'm not getting married ever again. Like, I already told my mom, I told my brother, like, I said, I'm not doing this again. Yeah. And I kept that to myself. And what do you know?
And here you are.
Oh my goodness gracious. I'm here.
You are here.
I am.
All right.
I'm happy to be here though.
I'm happy to be here too.
All right. Look at me.
All right, everyone. So this is going to be the end of our podcast. Again, we post every Monday. Go ahead, leave a review, subscribe. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Let us know what you thought about this episode. And if you want to come kick it with us on Monday, see you then.
Actually, hold up.
Oh.
Before we stop.
Okay.
Since we're on the topic of marriage, name top 5 overall marriage couples.
Overall?
Like celeb married couples that you like.
I don't pay attention to couples.
You don't?
No.
Wow.
And this, my friends, will happen often where Jimmy will just... I'm trying to end the podcast, and you are now telling me to do my top 5.
Give me, like you can even put some people that you know, like, just privately to you, that top 5 marriages that you see that you
I can't give you top 5.
That you love to see married couples.
I can't give you a top 5.
Not Denzel and Pauletta?
No, what? No. Babe.
Okay, I'll give it to you. I love you.
All right, we're going now.
All right, y'all.
Hope you enjoyed our first podcast.
And I hope we're
gonna work on our ending for the next one, and we're gonna get it right. We're gonna get it right.
We're gonna get it right. It's different.
It's all about the journey.
Yeah, it's all about the journey. Y'all gonna grow with us, and y'all gonna see us and be like, yo, they're so seasoned. Look at them. But we're gonna get it together, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Peace.